Okay, so I am back this afternoon and we're getting ready to start putting the hardener on top of the crinkled up tissue paper that we primered onto our styrofoam on our solid surface pieces that we're making. You can see that I have a lot of clutter on the table. So for those of you who don't like clutter, I should have put a disclaimer in the film before I surprised you, but here it is. As we move along and we use the clutter, I'll throw it behind me so you don't have to see it. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to go over all of my tissue paper, and as we spoke about before, I really wanted to make sure that we nailed the tissue paper down to the styrofoam with the primer. That's going to happen 99%. Occasionally you're going to have a little air bubble that just doesn't make it out. Let's just give it a little relief here and there that we find an air bubble. You won't find many, but you'll find one or two. As many times as I've done this, and I still find some. See there, I just press it right out. You may see some styrofoam, and that's okay. If you run into a little bit of your styrofoam, the hardener will stick to it just fine. We don't want an excessive amount of cutting. If we have to do an excessive amount of cutting, we might consider doing some tissue patches and mortar primer blends to nail it back down. Overall, I found 4 or 5 there. I think this is really pretty good. Got a few little tissue boogers right there. Again, if you see a little styrofoam and you're cut out, it's not the end of the world. This hardener will plaster right over it if I'm not getting ready to make an infallible mistake right here. I think this was a hole that we had filled before. Okay, so with that done, we kind of want to take a blower and blow your project off to make sure there's not a lot of dust on it. Alright, so there was the blower. Did you see all the dust just take off? Wasn't that incredible? Okay, so some things I have that we're going to make the hardener, to put the hardener on top of this and really make it hard like a solid surface, like a stone. We're going to use some exterior thin set, like tile thin set, that you put under tile, tile glue. I'm going to use some Fix-It-All. I'm going to blend 1 part thin set, 1 part Fix-It-All, and 1 part water. And we're going to come out with the gray cast. It's going to come out a very concrete cast that we'll paint over. Now, going to quickly warn you, these are like concrete. They set up like plaster. They set up hard like concrete. When you clean your brushes, when you clean your area and you dispose of your excess waste, do not put this in your drain. There's not an industrial drain, not a home drain. This will sit in your drain like concrete, and a plumber will come out to break it out or put you in new pipe. Do not wash this into your drain pipes. So, I like to let it all dry out into a cup, onto a towel, and then throw it in the trash. So I absolutely do not rinse and pour it down the drain. I would not pour it on my concrete because it will stain the concrete and it will adhere to the concrete and you'll have a goofy patch on your concrete. So if that happens, don't say I didn't warn you. Read the instructions on whatever product that you use. I really want to press that. Your personal protective equipment, your PPEs, follow what the manufacturer recommends. If it says to wear goggles, wear respiratory safety equipment, wear it. Whatever you do, follow the manufacturer's safety requirements. Okay, I'm going to jump right on into mixing it. Enough scolding about personal protection. I'm going to keep a full cup of water, and I'm going to keep a cup to mix my powder in. Now the reason I'm going to do that, we're just going to mix a little. This will set really, really fast. Your working time is 5 to 8 minutes, so you don't want to mix a lot. Now, with 5 to 8 minutes, when it gets thick on you, you're going to want to put your brush into the water to let it start soaking. Otherwise, every time you mix a new batch, you're going to get a new brush. You should be able to put 4 or 5 batches on with the brush. Okay, I'm going to start with about 3 tablespoons of each product. Certified table weights and measures, a tablespoon, I hope. All right, it's not pharmaceuticals, we can get by. 1, 2, 3. All right, I about dumped the water. We're going to set this out of the way real quickly, and then I'm going to get my Fix-It-All. This is like a drywall compound that sits up very, very hard like concrete. This has a real smooth texture. I find that the thin set gives us a rough texture. Yes, this looks a little bit somewhere between cornmeal and powder. 1, 2. Was that 3 or was that 1? I think that's 3. Okay, so there's some Fix-It-All. We're going to move that out of the way so we can watch this work. And then we're going to mix in some water. Okay, is it exactly a 3-to-1 ratio? I don't know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this little bit of water. I'm going to get it started. Again, we've got to start working quickly. Open time on this is 5 to 8 minutes once it hits water. And I'm just going to start mixing it up. And, you know, you kind of want this to be like, they say pudding mix. Maybe we could say gravy mix, like a thick pudding or a thick gravy. I like the idea of gravy mix. Remember how Mama would get up and she'd make gravy to put on the biscuits, gravy to put on the waffles? Now there's a restaurant here in town that puts gravy on the French fries. My gosh. Cardiologist's dream. All right, that's pretty thick. We're going to thin it just a bit. Notice I'm not measuring out my water. I'm just kind of mixing a solution here until it gets to the thickness I want. But if you notice, it got thick fast. And you can continue to cut it with water. Until you get the consistency you want of Mama's thick gravy. We call this gray gravy. You ever have Mama's chocolate gravy where Mama made chocolate pudding, made it hot and poured over biscuits? Man, that was a treat. We used to have that when we were really good and did all of our chores. All right, here it goes. I don't know if you can see this firing, and by firing I mean setting up. But it's really went from thin to now it's thick. Now it's gone like we've got too much gravy mixed in the water. So I'm just going to dilute it just a tad. Okay. And I'm going to continue mixing. Mix. Sound more like a car than a mixer, huh? I guarantee you, you got a mixer just kicking it up into overdrive. I don't know what you mix it, but boy, it's going to be good stuff. Pizza dough. All right. There. This is like our studio laboratory. All right. I think we're good. I'm going to keep the water handy because we just don't know what this is going to do. I'm going to clean my stir stick. Hopefully I can get another use out of that. And you will notice that when this gets clumpy, it gets lumpy. And you don't necessarily want to remix with lumpy clumpy. Because it just kind of leaves a lumpy clumpy. Alright, we're going to put this on thin. I don't care where you start. I don't care if you start at the top. I don't care if you start at the bottom. We're going to layer it on really kind of thin. And we're going to build up 3 or 4 layers. And we're going to let them dry. Depending on your project, you should let these dry 1 to 4 hours between layers. And that will give you the best effect. If you come back in 30 minutes or an hour and you try to put another layer on, all it may do is the moisture from your product, if the layer you just applied is not set up, the moisture from your application may just cause the layer below it to turn loose, and then you're just kind of working backwards. And I'm not really into working backwards, although I've done it plenty of times. So what you'll see here, this first layer, please notice I'm putting it on thin. Because you see one of the things I'm doing, I'm picking up the veins on this tissue paper, or the wrinkles that are going to look like veins in the rocks. They're going to look like crevices and relief breaks in the rocks. And we really want to keep those captured. That's one of the purposes of putting this on thin. If this was just to build up a shell, I would have stopped when it got thick like putty, and I would have just started smearing it on with a stick. But that's not necessarily what we're after. We're looking to pick up these recesses and the reliefs, and I'm going to start working a little faster, and I may have to start diluting this a little bit more. This is a small piece. It's got a lot of brush details to get in, but this is really, really setting up. See how thick it's getting? You can tell it's getting like concrete. Oh wow, look at this thing go. I hope we're getting this all on camera. You see I'm just adding it in. Okay, you can always unload some of your brush on a large part of your project when you're doing a small part. That way you're not dripping everywhere. Nothing like a project with the drips. It's like you had a runny nose or something. Well, the project did. All right. There's that. I'm gonna step over here and check the thermostat right quick. All looking good. Okay. Room temperature, critically important. Your ventilation is critically important. Remember, if you have a fan and you have wind blowing across your project is going to set much, much faster than if you don't have wind. So wind will increase your setting time. It will decrease your setting time. And what I'm trying to say is a wind blowing across your project will cause this to set up faster. So just be aware of that. If you take a break to eat a French fry or have a taco and your fan's blowing on it, you might come back and have something set up in the way that you didn't want to. Heavens forbid. Now, I hope that you can see a nice rock formation really starting to form out of this. I can, and I like it. I'm excited. I'll try to contain it, but man, tomorrow when we start putting the paint on, and then when the paint begins to dry and we start to dry brush it and pick up all these joints and reliefs, oh wow. Now see how I'm pulling the extra pudding down? You want to make sure that you're really pulling a smooth texture. I want the texture where the wrinkles are in the tissue paper, but that's it. Anywhere else, I want to keep them pulled down tight. Because when I go to paint this, I really want it to look like a mountain with a rock base. All right. Fugitive brush hair. We'll go back and gather those. That's not an issue. Okay, so I've mixed up my compound again in a very thick, almost pudding, gravy type batter. And we're going to make sure that I got it all stirred in and mixed. And I have my brush from yesterday. I simply soaked it in water, and we're going to see when I load it up with the new mixture, the water ought to come out of the brush and dissolve into the mixture and thin the mixture lightly. What we don't want to do is we don't want to set the brush out just to put water all over the just to thin what we did yesterday. Okay, another light coat. Oh, look at that go on. That's so pretty. We really want to start layering it on thin, but layering it on. You notice today that I'm wearing gloves. If there's a chance in the second coat, there's a real chance here. I'm pretty good on the first coat not to get in it, but in the second coat, just holding it, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to get myself into the compound as I'm putting it on, and it can irritate your skin. Remember to follow all your PPEs, your personal protective equipment recommendations. Use your eyeglasses, respiratory gloves, skin covers. Don't lick the stir stick, all those things. Be safe. All right, here we go. Here's the second coat going on. You see it's really building up. It's really adhering, so I've got a little more ability to work my mixture, my compound, if you will. It's really absorbing it. You saw yesterday when we were first putting it on the tissue paper on coat number 1, it was just kind of moving around. It has bonded to the tissue paper well, and we're really able to start building some layers now. And the third layer will get even a little more dense. Okay, I'm just going to continue to do this. Know that the second layer is going to be absorbed by the first layer, so it will probably dry faster. You'll probably have a little quicker response. I think you can see this coming together. I think you really see the rock formation. I may stop at 3 coats, I may stop at 4, but you will notice as we continue, we're going to have this really hard shell making, and it will really be a tough shell. It's hard to break. It can be broke, but it's very, very hard. It's a very, very tough shell. So, okay, get to working on your tunnels. Put coats number 3 and 4. Remember your PPEs. Everybody be safe, and I'll see you whenever we get ready to put the paint on and start doing the dry brushing and the scenery on this tunnel.